Welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast. My name is Mary Baird-Wilcock, and I'm so excited that you guys are getting to hear my next guest for today. Now, Lilli Badcock, she is a transformational confidence coach and author and a motivational speaker whose mission is to help her clients build unshakable confidence and to thrive in spite of anxiety. She's also the founder of the Confidence Academy and host of the Confidence Academy podcast. What I would like to talk to you, Lilli, today is really what I think is at the core of what happens to most all of us when we're trying to create things in our life. Is it actually self-sabotage? Can you simplify self-sabotage for us, Lilli?
I believe that I can. However, your own self-sabotage may not accept what I'm saying because it will seem too easy and you will tell yourself that it could never be that easy and therefore it must be rubbish. But yeah, it's totally possible.
So what has brought the universe to you, to me, and to now on this podcast is that you wrote some very poignant and beautiful words and powerful things in a Facebook group that we are both a part of, which is the B School, which is run by Marie Forleo. And that was, can you just give us a little bit of insight behind what you wrote just a couple of days ago that made all this happen?
Yeah, sure. So it was, I journal every morning anyway, and I try as best as I can to share what comes up because I found that the messages that come through are often, and in fact, almost all of the time, not just for me. And this was a post that I wrote because I'd realized that in the 5 years since I kind of embarked on this journey of self-discovery / entrepreneurialism, if that's a word, I had constantly been investing myself in groups and programs and coaches and, shiny objects all over the place from an energy of believing that on my own I wasn't enough. In a nutshell, that was what it was. And so it was this kind of epiphany that I'd had that, the expectations that I had when I went into these programs. So B School as an example, it came at a very pivotal point in my life, and I still believe, as I did then, that it was going to be life-changing for me. I really felt it on a soul level. However, I also believed that I was going to launch this empire in 8 weeks and, probably be a millionaire. I don't know. It was, and I truly believed that everything in that program was what was missing for me. And what I learned 5 years later is, that it wasn't a magic pill. It's an amazing program. And I don't believe in having regrets. There isn't one coach, one program, one training I've done where I've thought, oh, that was a total waste of time, because I believe everything comes for a reason. I believe there are lessons in everything. And even that in itself is a lesson. So, I always believed that I needed to do that thing. But I had this epiphany that it had always come from this belief system I had that I wasn't enough, which was kind of a kick in the nuts for me because that's what I do. I teach everybody else that they're worthy and that, that they can create these amazing lives. And the whole time I had this program running on a very deep level that on my own I wasn't enough. And it was always this feeling of, this is the thing that's missing. And then the next thing would come along and it'd be like, oh, that's the thing that's missing. And this light bulb literally went on, I don't know, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, whenever the post went out. And I just thought, damn. And I shared it because I share everything that's on my mind. I'm kind of known for it now. And I didn't expect the response it got, but I had over 200 responses and actual written responses to that.
So there's something to this, and let's break it down a little bit. So, really your first sentence out the gate when you posted this was, what do you do when you feel like you aren't getting the results you want in life, right?
Right.
And so you've bought something, either a course or a new book or hired a coach or something in your life. You're like, this is going to solve all of my woes, right? And I don't know, are you like me? I am a self-professed, and this may be also one of my own limiting self-beliefs, but I'm not a closer. Like, I'm not a finisher on books, especially. right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is this really that's happening in people? Like, why do we go and try and fall for the trap of bright, shiny objects to fix us or help us?
I've got a couple of theories. One is my theory, and one is a theory that I picked up in a book that I read and didn't finish, funnily enough. So the book that I'm referencing is called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And the funny thing about this is when I first was identified as having anxiety, and I was put on the medication, and I made that decision that that wasn't going to be enough and that I needed to find another way, I went for some hypnotherapy, and the hypnotherapist recommended this book to me. And I didn't read it for years. It was kind of like, and that in itself was self-sabotage. It was like on a level, it was like, oh, well, that's going to help me, which we don't want. And I'll explain why we think that later. But I didn't even read the book. And then it came back around. It's like anything with the universe. It keeps smacking you in the face with it until you get the message. And he talks about this upper limit that we all have, regardless of who we are, where we're from. It's this upper limit of what we feel we are deserving of. So it could be financial, it could be like money levels, it could be health, it could be what you get out of your relationships, your career, anything. We have these kind of unspoken limits with all of these things. And his theory is that whilst it is possible to push past it to a point, it's almost like you're on a bungee rope. And at some point, you're going to recognize, or your ego, your fear, whatever you want to call it, is going to suddenly go, whoa, 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 wait a minute. She's up leveling. We didn't authorize this. Let's yank her back. And we then self-sabotage our own efforts. So I think that's a huge part of it for sure.
So is step one awareness? I mean, because I think self-sabotage, and I'll be the first to admit it of myself, I've certainly seen myself. There's a reason I'm not a size 4, right? And waist, like it's because, and I know what I should eat, but I don't eat those foods all the time. Like, how do you get to awareness then?
I just think, well, first of all, it's just being aware that that's even a thing. I think we're very kind of conditioned, well, certainly my kind of type of person is we're very conditioned to see a problem and then fix it. So for me, it was like, oh, okay, so I have upper limit problems. Right, okay, how do I fix that? And then it's like a new obsession. It's like, oh, I've got all these upper beliefs, and then that becomes your story. And, ultimately you still get stuck. So I think, definitely the first step is awareness, but it's awareness without judgment. It's awareness without beating yourself up or trying to unpick why you feel that way. Sometimes it's enough just to say, okay, well, that's what it is. Today, that's how I feel. What the awareness allows you then to do is make a new choice, which sounds very simplified. And of course, it is simple, but it isn't always that easy because we don't allow it to be easy for all the reasons I just said. But it really is just about this new decision. So awareness definitely is the first step.
But pause right there. Is that there's got to be something underneath that as well, because I think what we're talking about here is mindset, right? At the bottom of the line, the end of the day, the stories we tell our brain. And I wonder if they're like what stops people right at the gate, right at this part, like the very beginning of the soul work that they need to do, is they go, oh, well, that's too simple. Like, that's not going to work. And then they throw that solution right out the gate, and they don't do that core work, right?
Yeah, and you know why? Because they don't feel worthy of the result. And that was the whole point of my post. Yeah. And I've actually realized it's the whole point of everything I teach. I realized last year that I didn't have a very high opinion of myself. I actually didn't like myself very much for all of this kind of noise I was making online about, confidence and, being true to who you are and all of this. When I actually started doing this work
on yourself,
on myself and journaling it and, kind of there was an element of, well, you might not feel like it, but you're going to do it anyway because you want the result, so let's suck it up and do it. And I realized that actually I didn't really like myself. I didn't respect myself. and therefore how was I ever going to get anyone else to respect me? And I wasn't therefore showing up in a way where I was even giving people the chance to do that, because this voice inside my head that I wasn't even aware of was just saying, well, who are you anyway? And actually, you're still dealing with all of your crap. So who are you to help somebody else out of theirs? And it's been really, really eye-opening. And, you know, I'm not a model journaler at all. I know journaling helps. This is the thing. This is the thing I found with my anxiety, actually. But I don't think it's just for people with anxiety. I just think this is the way we are. You know, I had all of the tools to help myself. And when anxiety kicked in, I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to do those things. It's like, yeah, I could journal, but I don't want to. I want to sit here and be miserable. I could go for a drive in the country and look at the sunshine and look at the sky and the trees, but I don't want to. I just want to be miserable. And it's been a journey. And actually, it's about awareness, and it's about honoring how you feel. So on those days when anxiety would be high, or I just wouldn't feel like doing this work, I would just honor the fact that that's how I felt. And so sometimes I would say, well, no, you have to do the work. Come on, Lil, suck it up. Like, you know, you say you want this, stop belly aching, get on and do it. And sometimes I would. And then other days it would be like, no, do you know what? I just want to be miserable. And that's okay. And then I would always write in my journal, just remember that's your choice though. Yeah. Like, you can be miserable as long as you want, but you are choosing to be miserable.
Yes.
And, you know, and then, so then I would kind of compromise and go, well, all right, I'll be miserable for an hour, then I'll suck it up.
I love that. And like, set a timer for yourself. So if you said, right, this is a miserable day. I'm going to sit in this. I'm going to wallow in this, right? I'm owning up to that. So how long am I going to do it? And then write it down on a piece of paper and hold yourself accountable to it.
Yeah. And be okay with that. Like, I think, you know, with anxiety, I'll talk about anxiety just because that was my story. But as I said, I think this is multifaceted. I think it shows up in a lot of ways. But it was almost like, you know, if that's what you need, that's what you need. But it is your choice. This is your decision. And in feeling like that, I then got my power back. And I think with anxiety and all these other things, you know, stress, depression, all of the things that are kind of lumped in with it, one of the main frustrations for people, and one of the main kind of, it's like kryptonite for Superman, it's the thing that takes everyone's power away, is this feeling that they don't have control.
Yes.
You know, I see so often people going, oh, I wanted to do this today, but anxiety sucks, and so I didn't do it. Well, no. You don't give the anxiety that power. I said to you earlier on our kind of, you know, get to know you call, you know, my anxiety, it's along for the ride, because if I ever want to jump off a ledge or run into traffic or fight a tiger, my anxiety is going to actually be quite handy, and it's going to show up and say, no, that's a terrible idea. But for the most part, it sits in the back of the car. It's not even allowed to touch the stereo. Like, it doesn't get to call the shots anymore. And there are occasional times where I might let it, you know, I kind of, you know, give it a little bit of something, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we can do this, but we're not doing it for long. And to be honest, that was the decision I made when the doctor handed me my prescription. It was, well, all right, I'm going to take these meds because right now I feel like I need to. Yeah. But within 6 months, I'm coming off. Within 6 months, I'm done, because I don't believe that this is how I want to live my life. It wasn't even about, is this what I need, or is this going to help me? It was, I don't choose this. I don't want to be taking pills just to feel normal. It wasn't even to feel good. Right. It was just to even function. I was like, that sucks. That totally doesn't match with anything that I planned for my life. So thanks, but no thanks. I mean, the doctor was very good looking. So I was like, do you know what? I'll take your prescription, but yeah. But I'm not doing it for long. And I've kind of carried that along with me. So, you know, even with the journaling work, sometimes I don't feel like it. Interestingly, when I don't do it, I do feel worse, and I eventually end up doing it anyway. Yeah. But it always comes from this place of power and this place of, now I choose to do it. I'm not doing it because someone told me to. I'm not doing it because a program said I should. I'm not doing it for any reason other than right now, this is what I feel like I need. And I'm in that power. That's my decision. And really powerful to be able to think like that.
Yeah. And so we talked about how powerful your mindset is. And I feel like I literally have only been starting to scratch the surface on this myself in my own personal journey over the last couple of years of just how powerful that organ is versus all the other ones in your body, right? And so is mindset really at the core of why people struggle to follow through on projects or goals or reading books and finishing them or whatever it is that they're striving for?
It's definitely, I don't know if mindset is the right word. It's our multi-layered beliefs about
Our belief
what
system.
what we're capable of, what we're worthy of, what we're deserving of. It's kind of multi-layered. But, the thing you said about not finishing courses or programs or books, I think, part of that might be self-sabotage. Part of that might come from this place of, because, if I finish it, then I might succeed. And how friggin' scary is that? There's that element to it. I might finish it and it might not work. Yeah. So I might do all of this work and still fail. Yeah. That's also scary. But also I was at a conference once, and actually it was a finance conference. It was nothing to do with mindset. And yet the lady delivering the teachings was a massive hippie, and she had loads and loads of like golden nuggets. And she had this theory that the brain stores everything, which we know it does, but even books. So even if you start to read a book, your brain kind of logs it and it goes, okay, so Lily started reading The Big Leap. Right, we're just going to keep reminding her that she needs to do that. And it kind of takes a bit of energy. And then you might start a program and it's like, oh, okay, right. So imagine you've got this bookshelf with all these books with like markers in that you haven't finished. And it clogs up your energy. It clogs up your ability to see and think clearly. Because the whole time, you might try and sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning and then suddenly go, oh, I didn't do module 5 of that program that I bought 10 years ago, and the brain is like, oh, it's like a little puppy dog that wants to serve you. And it's like, oh, by the way, you didn't finish this and you didn't finish that. So there was a really interesting exercise that she shared where you can finish the book mentally. So you don't have to physically finish the book. And this is going to take us in a whole new direction. But your subconscious has no idea what's real and what isn't. It only knows what it knows. It only knows the pictures that you give it and the images that you see in your mind. So while you've got all of these things that are kind of half finished and undone, your subconscious is constantly feeling like it has to remind you of that. So, and it isn't always like, you wouldn't wake up in the morning and go, oh, I have to finish this book and that program. You just might wake up and think, oh my God, I can't cope with life. Like, what do I start with? Like, where do
I'm too overwhelmed. My to-do list is crazy. Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. It shows up like that. It's not, unfortunately, as puppy dog as it is, it's not that helpful because it doesn't actually give you the to-do list.
Right.
It just goes, you've got a shit ton of stuff you need to do and no time to do it. So you can mentally finish or at least wrap up these things in your mind. So you can like literally write a list. So for the book example, for example, you can just say, Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap, that's done. And you can just think that's done, or you can write in your journal, that's done. This also works for these limiting beliefs. So when you start to uncover, like through journaling, I started to uncover some really interesting beliefs that I had. And the really funny thing about it is once you start uncovering your own, you also start noticing everybody else's as well. I even said to my husband earlier today, he made a comment about people that have a lot of money. And I went, wow, that's an interesting limiting belief. And he was like, oh, shut up, you hippie, which he says a lot, But I was like, no, that's really interesting because you've just blanket statemented like the entire population of people that earn money. And it's not true. Yeah. But you believe that. And therefore, all of your actions and everything that comes off the back of that is affected. So you can even, like I say, with limiting beliefs, I've been known to write them in my journal and then I read them back and I say, do I actually believe that, number one? Because when you start to uncover limiting beliefs, some of them you might read back and go, but I don't even think that anymore. Like,
Yes.
I know why I thought that, because 20 years ago this happened, but I'm 20 years evolved now. I don't believe that anymore. And that's amazing, because then you can literally cross it out and say, I don't believe that anymore.
Well, and like just to, as a quick visual, I mean, it's literally those each one of those limiting beliefs that you say to yourself, either subconsciously or consciously, is literally like an anchor. You're a big tugboat with an anchor dropped down in the ocean, right? And it's holding you from actually making progress forward. So
Yeah.
can you lift up the anchor and let go of that belief and say, nope, I'm done. And so you can make forward progress, right?
I believe you can. I believe it is possible to completely get rid of limiting beliefs. I also believe and know it's possible to thrive even with the buggers still there. It's like a constant thing. When you start this work, I think you are constantly just going to dig something else up. And something that was interesting for me was when I first came across this concept of fear-based thoughts and limiting beliefs and the ego talking and all of this idea of this negative stuff that we don't need to buy into.
Yeah.
That then became the new thing. So it was like, oh, so now so we talked about awareness. Well, I was aware, but now I was wearing it proudly like a badge, going, oh, I have all these blocks and therefore I can't do it. And, I've seen that. I mean, I was a vocal coach, or am a vocal coach, and I have been for years. And I see that there's an area in our voice. We have the lower end of the voice, which we call chest voice, which is where we speak from. It's the connection. There's the top end of the voice, which is referred to as head voice, sometimes falsetto. And people generally know about those things, even if they don't know the terms. What they don't know about is this kind of middle area, which is known as the bridge or the passaggio, where the two need to work together. And where people often struggle in singing is they get into their passaggio and suddenly their voice feels tight and they feel like they can't sing higher. So this would explain why some people find, a song is too high, and then the next song that comes on might be higher and they can do it and they don't understand why. And it's because of where you're being asked to sing. But it's the same thing. Somebody can be aware of their bridges or their passaggio, but it's their perception of what it means. So I've met so many singers that have gone, I even hear my husband say, he's a singer. He's like, oh, I can't sing that. It's in my bridge. I'm like, it doesn't mean that. It just, if something's in your bridge, you make adjustments and then you sing the damn thing anyway. It doesn't mean you can't do it. And this is the same thing. You're going to uncover limiting beliefs. You're probably going to keep uncovering them till the day you die. What does that mean, though? It's the meaning that you give it. It's that perception.
Yeah.
And, so what, anxiety was the same thing. You've got anxiety. Well, but what does that mean? Does that mean, therefore, that you can't be happy? I don't think so. Does it mean that you can't follow your dreams? No, but I don't choose that. And it is all about perception. So, if we're making a list of steps, I think awareness definitely is one. Honoring how you feel is definitely in there. And then the perception of what all of that means. And the funny thing is, you'll go, oh, I've got these limiting beliefs then, or maybe I'll get rid of a few and that worked. Oh, but I can't get rid of that one. Well, that's a limiting belief in itself.
Yes, because I'm not a closer is perpetuating the I'm never going to close finish a book, right?
Yeah, and
By
the thing
saying
is,
that about
but
yourself.
but so what? I'm not a closer. It sounds like that's a bad thing. What if not being a closer was the best frigging thing in the whole wide world? Perception is, I could literally talk for hours and days and years about the power of perception. That's how you change in an instant. It's your perception of the situation.
Yeah, and what happens to you? Because I think we get stuck in the reactive of like, oh, this crap thing happened to me and that's horrible. But don't I have a horrible life and I never get a lucky break and da 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 da. But actually that door closing or that job interview completely failing or whatever it is, I didn't win the big client job, is just opening you up to something else if you perceive that, right?
Yeah. That's another huge thing. I mean, I just said I could speak for ages about perception, but it's to really simplify this. I think your anxiety, your fear, your stress, your overwhelm, whatever label you want to put on it, It does. I don't care if it's around making money, finding clients, making friends, being in relationships. I don't care what it's about. When you dig down and down and down and down and down, and you get to the root of what it is, you just think you're not okay. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All anxiety, all fear stems from the belief that if X, Y, and Z happens, you won't be okay. And one of the most powerful epiphanies that I had, and one of the most powerful mantras that I carry even now, is you're okay. You're going to be okay. Even if all of that terrible stuff happens, you are still okay.
You're safe.
Because when have you ever not been? You can challenge this. It's, and again, it's perception. People could go, oh, yeah, well, I've had a terrible life. Yeah, you have. But guess what? You're still breathing. You're still stood here. You might be stood here miserable right now, but maybe that's a choice. That's a whole other conversation to have.
Yeah.
That kind of pisses people off when you say that as well. But, but even that's, it becomes a fun game. You sound like a kid that's just trying to wind them up, but it's like, even that's a belief. Even that's a belief. And they're like, oh. But, it's, what if and actually my mantra isn't even that I am okay. It's what if we're always okay? Just what if? Like, what if the worst possible thing happens to you and you're okay? Because I've had a very blessed life. I want to say that, and perhaps I wouldn't speak this way if I had had to live through some of the things that other people have had to face. Perhaps I wouldn't be able to speak this way. Perhaps there's a reason for that. Perhaps, that this is why I am able to do this. Or perhaps what I've been through would completely derail somebody else, and maybe I just decided it wasn't going to derail me. And that was tricky as well. I've always had this thing of, oh, well, my anxiety was mild. Well, it actually wasn't that mild. I had to stop work. I was having panic attacks. I was getting physical symptoms. The thing that actually got me to the doctor was I blacked out while I was driving my car, and I had my kids in the back.
Wow.
So, that's pretty severe. I've just got this attitude of meh, but it didn't, it's okay.
Yeah.
And so, there is that as well. I think we're very guilty sometimes of downplaying our own experiences. And, I have a friend who has had a horrible couple of years. And this is where there's a bit of an issue, I think, with this idea that we always have to be positive and that, we have to always be grateful. Gratitude is an amazing, powerful thing. But, let's call a spade a spade. If you've been through some shit storm, you're allowed to say it sucks. You're allowed to say, no, that was a terrible time in my life.
Yeah. And,
this friend said to me, oh, I know I should be grateful and I know I should blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, there's no should. What you should do is process how you feel. Then look for gratitude. Yes, gratitude is, I teach gratitude. It's incredibly powerful. But if you're trying to do gratitude from a place of obligation and from a place of ignoring the fact that you just went through something that was awful, that's not going to work energetically anyway, because you're just going to be stuck, because on the root of it, you're still feeling sad about the things that you went through or the experiences that you had. So, it's very, very interesting to when you start pulling all of that together. And that was a big lesson for me as well.
So I want to go back to one thing that you said that I think is really, really key, is asking those what if questions in your life and how that can actually pull you out of the muck. And so what kinds of practical what if questions do you ask yourself? Do you journal it? Tell us, that down for us.
Yeah, so I do journal it. Sometimes it's just a thought, though. This is where retraining your brain can come in. So what that means is I think people kind of get a bit scared when you say, oh, I'm going to retrain your brain. They're like, she's going to put a helmet on me and plug me into something. It's not about that, but it's this choice, and you can make it a fun game.
Yeah.
I want to be really clear here. Nobody is saying that just by saying what if you can suddenly not be depressed or suddenly not have anxiety or suddenly not be in financial turmoil. It's not, there is no magical fix, and we are all on a journey and it's all for a purpose.
Yes.
I want to state that as well.
Yes.
But this game of what if that I like to play, again, this came from my hypnotherapist, who I should shout out, actually. She's called Caroline Kavanagh. She's an amazing woman. She is a hypnotherapist, and she also is trained in NLP, which is what a lot of this stuff stems from. And she was the first one to do this. And it was really irritating, I'll be honest, like in my session, because I was making statements of what I believed was truth. And she was just firing back with, yeah, but what if that's not the case? But like an annoying child. Yeah, but what if you're wrong about that? Whoa, I don't like being wrong. I don't like where this is going. You know, I was like, hold on a minute. But actually, what she taught me by asking those questions was, you always get to have fun with it. You always get to just go, okay, let's just say that all the neon arrows are pointing to this being the thing, the truth, or whatever it is. But just for fun, what if that's wrong? What if all the neon arrows are wrong? Like, you know, there's a lot of collective consciousness in the world. There's a lot of shared beliefs. There's a lot of opinions that everyone seems to have. But why? Like, where did that come from? At some point, that was one person's belief. And maybe that person is very powerful. Or maybe, I don't know, they got in our heads. I don't know what they did.
Like a parent or a teacher or...
Yeah, or even just an experience. Like even just, you know, what you observe from what happens around you. But the what if game would say, yeah, but what if they were wrong? Yeah. Like, what if everyone's wrong? When I was at school, everybody, well, not everybody, I would say 99% of my year suddenly wanted to start smoking. You know, they got to this age where they were like, oh, smoking's cool. Like, we're going to go down the alley and we're going to do it. And because I'm a stubborn little shit, I was like, well, I'm not going to. I don't want to smoke. Just because all of you want to, by default, I now don't want to.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think that's a common thing. Like, a lot of kids just try smoking and then, but, you know, they just kind of get hooked on it. And, you know, 20, 30, 40 years down the line, they've got yellow fingers and no money and their teeth are falling out and they wonder what they did with their life. But, you know, and I'm not coming from this place of, oh, I'm so cool because I didn't smoke. But it was interesting that even then as a kid, I didn't even know that, you know, I was challenging kind of the norm. But I think I've always, I've just always had this thing where I'm like, no, what if it's the other way? Like, what if I don't have to smoke? What if I don't, you know, I mean, I was not very rock and roll, but I'm not a smoker, never have been, not a big drinker, never have been, never done drugs. Not because I'm a goody two shoes, or maybe I am a little bit, but just because it was like, no, I don't accept that. Just because everyone else is doing it. Yeah. Why should I?
Well, and I think that there's some truths in this in particular is that I find that what keeps people blocked sometimes is that trap of comparison, right? And so when you are in that kind of group think mentality where you have to believe the status quo and you know are feverishly looking at your competitor's Instagram feed and going, "Oh, they have all these amazing photos and look at all 36,000 followers. I'm just piddling along at whatever, you know?"
Yeah.
Like that's part of it. That's what's deep down inside that. Would you agree?
Completely. And the other thing I want to say about that is, like, I mean, this is going to, you know, the term blow your mind, I think this is the definition of that, because you can really start to pull apart every single thing. So now we're getting into our desire to cling to a specific outcome. So I've had clients or friends even that I've spoken to who have said, you know, I've said, you know, what's the big dream? Because I like to do this exercise with people, like write down the big dream. What is it? So they're like, okay, we dream from our own perception. It's perception again. So we tend to not dream big enough. We tend to just dream enough so that it doesn't suck quite so much. So, you know,
like, I don't need to be rich. I just need to get by, right?
Just have enough. Yeah. Aww. So, you know, they might be like, oh, okay. So, you know, my work wouldn't be quite so stressful. Well, no, like dream huge. What if you didn't have to even do that job? And but we get stuck down these little rabbit holes. So then we get stuck on not only what the outcome should be, because we think that's the best outcome for us. We then get stuck on how we bring that about. And that's why we feel stuck. So we challenge this, like the what if would work for this as well. But, you just challenge that and go, well, what if that isn't the only outcome? What if that isn't your only choice? Like, what if you didn't have to do that at all? And again, this is something that I've definitely lived through. Like, even as recent as last year, I knew what I was supposed to do. I've known for a long time that I'm supposed to do this work, that I'm supposed to share my message, whether that's through writing, speaking, singing, like whatever it is. And I was still allowing myself to feel stuck because I had some other businesses that were kind of here where I live. And for a lot of it did light me up. So then I was stuck with, oh, but how do I do that? Because I have to keep this, because, I have to keep this going because that brings in the money, and, limiting belief after limiting belief after limiting belief.
I can't hand this off to anybody. No one could do this as good as me. Oh,
yeah.
That kind of not wanting to let go of all the piddly tasks that are on your to-do list. Oh, no one could possibly do this. I have to handle this.
Totally.
But I hate it. I hate this task.
I'm feeling like you being irresponsible to do that as well. Like that, there's a big part of that. And I'm a massive people pleaser. So it isn't just, in fact, it's very rarely me I'm trying to please. It's everybody else around me. So I'm going to be 40 in a couple of weeks, and I still think, oh, what would my dad say if I did that? I don't want to upset my dad. I don't want to disappoint my mum. And, and I did a big thing. I started this thing last year where I was going to start acting from my gut, from intuition, because I learned that I was getting these little nudges. And, I always say the whisper of inspiration is nothing compared to the shrill scream of fear. Our heads are clouded by loud, screamy voices telling us what we should and shouldn't do and why we can and can't do it. And, your inspiration is this tiny, meek little, well, by the way, it will literally just go, oh, how about that? And then you'll go, oh, I can't. And it's like, okay. It's not a very pushy thing. I mean, I think inspiration needs to have a word with itself and step its game up a little bit, because it's got no balls. But, I was just in this kind of phase of going, well, I'm just going to do what feels right. And I actually ended up giving away one of my businesses. I didn't even sell it because, to me, at that point, it wasn't worth anything. So to sell it meant putting more energy into it when I knew that was the wrong thing. So I just gave it up. I just gave it up.
And how did it feel when you let it go?
Yeah, scary as hell, but massive weight. Like, almost instantly, it was like, that was the right decision. And by the way, no one else got it. I mean, my husband was like, you've done what? Like, are you actually crazy? I'm like, maybe. I know where I'm going now, though. And I know this doesn't align. And comes back to the dreaming thing. It's just get clear where you're going. And every decision becomes very, very easy because it either takes you towards it or it holds you back from it. And, and I'd heard that a lot. I hadn't had the balls to actually follow it through with action, though. So
let's talk about nudges, because I'm a firm believer in those as well. And once I've learned to listen to that little voice, whatever you want to call it, your intuition, God, universe, whatever, it doesn't matter what label you put on it. Where do you hear the little voices, the nudges? Is it in the shower, at the gym? Where do you hear it?
I get it first thing in the morning when I wake up. But I need to work. I need to chat with whoever it is that's delivering these messages. We need to have a conversation because they come in so fleetingly and then they go. And usually my eyes aren't even open. So there is some hilarious scribbling in my journal and random notes in my phone that I've kind of done with my eyes shut. Because I'm like, I have to get this out. Otherwise I'm going to forget.
Yeah.
But a great example of this was yesterday I posted something that I'd woken up with and then completely forgotten about. And then I got a nudge later that was just like, look in your notes. So I looked in my notes and I was like, oh my God, I was going to share that post. So it comes then. The shower is a huge place of inspiration for me. I've actually read articles that say there's something about being in water that allows it the flow. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that. I just know that whenever I have a shower, it usually ends with me leaping out soaking wet, trying to find something to write on, pushing children out of the way, going, get out of the way, Mummy's had a brainwave. And quite often that will be not always not always big ideas, but quite often just, it's almost like a counseling session. Like it goes through my mind as I'm washing my hair, or whatever. And I often have an audio playing while I'm in there. And I rarely even listen to the audio because I'm listening to my own audio in my head.
Yeah.
And it's often just answers I've been looking for. So, things I've been worried about, I'll suddenly think of a solution, or, a decision I've been trying to make suddenly seems a lot easier. I think it's almost because when you're in the shower, you go into it's like autopilot, isn't it? You just, you wash your hair, you do your stuff, and you're not actually kind of going through a list of, oh, what must I do now? You just allow to relax and you just chill.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one for me.
And I think what I heard there also is practically how simply we can put this into practice right now. Somebody is listening to this and getting super inspired, is cultivating space for yourself so that you can hear the nudges. So whether that is putting on some calm music in the background, or, locking yourself in the bathroom, just for even literally 10 minutes away from your kids. I call that my mommy timeout time. Just cultivate these moments in your life where you can stop and pause and listen, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What else?
And wherever that works for you as well. So this comes back to honoring who you are and what you need. Yeah. I'm a mum too, as you said at the start. I'm about to be a mum for a third time. One of the things that really got me anxious in the early days, my GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder, was diagnosed after my second child. And one of the major things I struggled with was this feeling that I had to do X, Y, and Z. So when I was working, I felt guilty because I felt like I had to be a mum. And then when I was trying to be a mum, I felt guilty because I felt like I should be at work. And it didn't matter what I chose. I was beating myself up, telling myself I should be doing something different. And again, my hypnotherapist, Caroline, said, you're trying to wear, or she had a couple of different metaphors for this. The first one was, you're trying to wear all of your hats at once. You're trying to be mummy, entrepreneur, wife, and whatever else, vocal coach, like whatever your roles are, you're trying to wear all of those hats, which would look ridiculous anyway. And what that's meaning is eventually you're not actually doing a good job of any of those things. And then you're reminding yourself of that. And this is why you feel like crap. Yeah. And the other way she described it was driving the bus. So she was like, if you have a bus, you can have all of these people on board. Only one of you can drive it, though. And right now, everyone was trying to drive the damn bus, and it ended up in burnout and overwhelm. So, yes, find the quiet moments, but, don't. I've listened to so many people. Like, I love people like Gabrielle Bernstein. I listen to Katrina Ruth, who used to be known as Kat Laterzo, Joe Vitale, Tony Robbins, obviously. There are a bunch of people I listen to. Every single person is going to have their version of what worked for them. So Gabby Bernstein, for example, has a book called May Cause Miracles, where she suggests that you have a miracle moment in the middle of the day. And I actually do. I set an alarm on my phone, but more often than not, it's not a miracle moment. It's me going, oh, shut up, because the alarm's going off. And she's like, start every morning with a prayer and a meditation and breathing. And, oh, it sounds amazing. Does it happen for me? Hell no, it doesn't. No, because my kids are coming in and like pulling my ears at 5 a.m, or, trying to jump on the bump or something. And then, at the other end of the day, she's like, have a wind down thing, like light some candles, have a bath, like do some journaling. Yeah, Gabby, that sounds gorgeous, love, but it's not going to work for me.
Right. You got kids running around. You got school runs to do. You've got this, you've got that. So how do you simplify? What works for you?
It's a choice. It's actually, and my choice is to just do what works. So there are times where the boys fall asleep and maybe I can have a bath, or maybe I can write in my journal. There are other times where that doesn't happen, and it's my choice is I just honor whatever happens. And it's like, do you know what? It is what it is. That's fine. And you mentioned dieting earlier. It's the same thing. Like, we've all done it. You get on a diet, you're all really fired up for it in the beginning, and then you eat a chocolate bar and it's like, oh, well, oh, well, I failed.
Yeah.
Give me another 10.
Yeah, one bar goes to another, to another, to another. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is the core of it all, right?
Mm.
Why do the wheels come off the bus at that point? Like what do you think truly is it literally just mindset, or is it just literally the stories we tell us? Is there something else deeper underneath that? Why we self-sabotage?
My view of it, which, not everyone will agree with, I'm sure, but my own personal experience of this is anytime I'm not acting from my gut, what I know is right for me, I can't sustain it.
Mm-hmm.
So think about these shows, like, you have shows like Big Brother all over the world where they bung a load of people in a house and they put cameras around, and there's always a discussion, and I love Big Brother, by the way, but there's always a discussion about, oh, is so-and-so playing a game? Is so-and-so being fake? And blah, blah, blah. And in the beginning, yes, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're very aware of the cameras. I'm sure they're consciously making choices about what they say, what they do. After a while, though, you can't sustain it. And I think it's the same in life. I think, I could try and model Gabby B. I think the book May Cause Miracles, I love it. But have I even got to the end of the first week? Rarely. Because I'm doing it again from this space of, I'll be a better person if I do this person's program.
Right.
I will be better if I fill this void. I need to fix this thing about me. And I think we don't follow through when we're not following our own path. It's a unique path. It's, you can take inspiration from anyone you like, and you should. Like, nobody was put here to walk alone. Nobody has the overall say. So there is no one up on a high throne going, oh, guess what, guys? I've figured it all out. There just isn't. So take inspiration, get the support, but ultimately do what feels right for you. If you want to eat the chocolate bar, eat the damn chocolate bar, and don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
If you miss a day of journaling, like, that's okay. You chose not to journal. Maybe that's okay. What if that's okay? And I think the sabotage comes from trying to beat ourselves down a path that maybe isn't our path. Like, our path might look really similar. I do love to journal. I journal most days. I don't journal every day. I don't think I've journaled today because it didn't feel aligned for me. I woke up this morning with a fire up my bum. I don't know why. I'm so pregnant. I should be sleepy, but today I didn't feel like that. So I didn't want to get zen and put my binaural beats in and journal.
Yeah.
I wanted to crack on with my day. I wanted to get my stuff done. And so rather than sit and go, oh, but so-and-so would have said I should do that and do this, and it's all this belief of, if I do this, I will get that. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. It's if you act from your heart and your soul, your path will unfold, and you have to trust that it's the right path for you.
Yes.
And we mentioned earlier about blocks coming up and challenges, and again, I'm going to use the what if game. So first of all, this financial thing that I went to, where I said the lady was amazingly spiritual, again, this came from her. She said, instead of going through life hoping nothing goes wrong, why don't you just expect it to? And that sounds like a really negative thing, but it isn't, because we are all here on a journey. Or let's say, what if we're all here on a journey, and part of that journey is to grow and learn and expand and elevate. And what if these challenges that come up into our path are not blocks at all? Again, it's perception. Okay, so if a 6-foot wall appears in front of you, you could choose to feel stuck by that, or you could climb over it, or go around it, or tunnel under it. Like, it's your perception. So instead of hoping that nothing ever goes wrong ever again, why don't you just expect it to? Just go, okay, well, when I get to the next level, I'm sure something else will come up. But guess what? I believe that my challenges are not blocks. They are building blocks. They are things I can climb up onto to get to the next level that will elevate me. And again, this is a really good point. I'm glad this came up. I tend to just waffle until good stuff comes out. Good job you have an editor for this show. But yeah, it's my experience, and my now belief is these challenges are not blocks at all. They are the direct route to whatever it is you've asked for. And you have to go through the fire. You can't kind of click your fingers and the block disappears.
Yeah.
It's okay, well, I can be afraid of this, or I can just look at it and go, okay, what are we dealing with? What is this?
Mm-hmm.
Because come back to that belief of, what if we're always okay? What if I walk through that fire? Yeah, I might get burned. Yeah, I might completely set myself alight, and then I'm going to come out the other side. And I might be a little bit charred, and I might be a bit hot, and I might decide that, walking through fire maybe isn't so fun. It's the direct route to what you want.
Yeah.
Your biggest fears are your quickest routes to what you're asking for. And I think, this idea of self-sabotage, it is just fear. And it isn't even fear of going through the tricky stuff, I don't think. It's fear of actually getting what you want. And something that came up for me, and has come up for me again and again, is this thing that I don't know who I am if I'm not worrying about that thing. I don't know who I am if I'm not struggling. I don't know what my life would mean if, I think our fears fuel us. The things we struggle with the most, as annoying as they are, that's what lights the fire under our belly. So there's a kind of fear of, well, if someone took that away, then what would my purpose be? And, this all came out in journaling for me. It was, what would my purpose be? How would I relate to anybody? Why would I even bother to do anything? Because I wouldn't have that passion and that fire. So that in itself was a limiting belief. Well, what if your passion and fire is in your soul? And I have a very out there kind of theory, but actually I've shared this with a lot of people, and loads of people have gone, no, that's what happened. Like, that's real. And it's a what if, but just imagine for a minute that we're all these beautiful balls of light buzzing around in, wherever we were. And the big ball of light in charge kind of came up and went, okay, guys, like, we've got a great adventure. We're going to get a bunch of you, and we're going to send you to this planet. And you're going to have what's called a human experience. You're going to get a vehicle that looks like a weird person. Like, you're going to get brains, and you're going to get hands, and it's going to be awesome. And you're all going to have a mission, and you're going to go down and you're going to fulfill that mission. And we all went, yeah. And we got in our little pods to come down. And just as we launched, they were like, oh, by the way, when you get there, you're going to have no idea who you are, why you're there, what you're doing, like what the point of any of this is. You're going to be completely beaten down by overwhelm, sabotage, fear, like the lot. Have fun.
Good luck.
Yeah. And then off we went. And, what if that's real? What if that's what we're all doing here? And I think whenever I get sad or frustrated or anxious or kind of bogged down with, and not even little things sometimes, I've had big issues. I've had bailiffs banging at my door saying they're going to take my stuff. I've had, we all lose people. I've had, jobs that haven't worked out, relationships that have fallen apart, like we all do. And what gets me through those moments is just this kind of funny idea that I'm a ball of light, and, this human is having a horrible day, but I'm a ball of light. And maybe this anxiety is just the sign that I just lost sight of why I'm here for a minute.
Yeah.
So let me get myself back to that. And, again, that doesn't send bailiffs away straight away, but it makes me feel better. And the thing about that is that's an energy shift.
Right.
And when you can shift your energy, you start to see the possibilities, and you start to see the answers that you've been asking for. And you realize that there is always something negative to focus on, but there is also always something positive as well. You can always figure it out. You're a B schooler. Everything is figure outable is one of the main kind of mantras.
Yes.
I love that. I launched a podcast in November with no clue what I was doing, but I set myself the goal or the rule at the start that I wasn't allowed to let not knowing be a thing.
Yeah.
So the first thing was, okay, what even is a podcast? I don't even know. Well, that doesn't matter. Next question. Okay, I'm probably going to need a mic. I don't have one. Right, figure that out. Where are you going to get a mic from? And, whereas before I would have just gone, ugh, I'd have looked around from where I was sat and gone, no,
this is too hard. No.
Too hard. I can't be bothered. I just was like, no, you have to figure it out. And I remembered that I'd actually bought the mic I'm using now for my brother a year ago for Christmas. So I rang him up And again, even then, the fear voice was going, he's probably not even home. He's going to be at work. It's a Friday lunchtime, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Rang him up and was like, John, do you have that mic? And to start with, he wasn't at work, because as luck for me would have it, not for him, he was poorly, but as luck for me would have it, he was home. And he was like, yeah, I have that mic. And I said, do you use it anymore? And he was like, not really, because he's a singer. And this is a podcasting mic, really. I mean, like, universe, you've got to love it, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I'm going to need that back. Merry Christmas. I'm sorry it sucked, but I'm going to need that back. And then it was like, okay, so you found a mic, but your brother lives 45 minutes away. Like, are you really going to get in the car at midday on a Friday when the traffic's terrible to go and get the mic? And before I'd even finished asking the question, I was in the car and driving, because guess what? I don't get to stop myself. I don't get to make these excuses.
Yes.
And that's how I launched my podcast. And, you know, I don't know what the future holds for that yet, but I can tell you that as of yesterday, I was only 200 downloads away from hitting 40,000.
It's crazy.
And that's since November. I mean, I was like, can't wrap my head around that. But what that's then opened up, it's not, you know, I'm not suddenly a millionaire. I don't live in a mansion yet. You know, Tony Robbins isn't ringing me up asking me to go for dinner yet. Gonna happen, Tony, if you're listening. You know it's gonna happen. But yeah, it's not that any of that happened. It was more the energy that it gave me, and was like, wow, because that happened at the end of October 2017, at a point where that morning I'd woken up anxious and fearful and frustrated, because I was looking at the calendar going, it's the end of October. You've done another year nearly when you haven't achieved any of the things you set out to do. I mean, I was really on one, you know, it was like, you haven't achieved anything. Like, you've wasted another year. Like, are you really going to get to the end of 2017 and still be bellyaching about the same crap you were bellyaching about a year ago? And I caught myself, because of the mindset work, to bring it all back to that, I caught myself in that moment and was like, well, that would be one way. That would be one choice. And right now I could continue down this path of pity and, you know, which sucks, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And normally what I would have done was then have written off the last 2 months of the year, because I would have told myself that that wasn't long enough to create change, which is bollocks, because you can create change in a second. So I was like, okay, that's one choice. Do I want to choose that? Or do I want to choose that I can create change in an instant? That maybe this could be the catalyst. This could be the turning point when I decided that actually, no, none of that's true, and I can create change now. And then I had a little word with myself, and I was like, really, what have you been waiting for? Like, you know, this is a good thing about dreams, because I have big dreams, but I'd always visualize them as being in the future. So guess where they stay when you do that? I always was like, someday I'll blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, okay, but at what, like, you know, when people have these massive epiphanies, turnarounds, like lightning bolt moments where everything changes, like, does that take a month or a year? No, it happens in an instant.
Yes.
So I was like, well, then I choose for my instant to be right now. I want November to be the most amazing transformational month of my life. And I decided that's what was going to happen. And I cracked on. And then that's where the idea of I'm going to go for my gut came from, because at that point I had nothing else. I was like, right, we've made this decision. We have no idea what we're doing. All we can do is what feels right.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed to question it. And, you know, I mean, it's gone nuts since then. Am I still struggling with stuff? Yeah.
You're a real person.
We've talked about that.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're not perfect.
Golden ball of light in a human body. I'll take it. It's fine. Yeah. I also realized that my biggest issue, that, you know, the lesson that I keep getting to learn that I can't seem to shake off yet, is actually forming exactly why I'm here and who I'm supposed to help. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't even realize this. But this is what I mean by, you know, your biggest challenge is the path to everything you wanted. Like, I know I'm supposed to create change. I know I'm supposed to impact people. I know that's what I'm good at. If I didn't have these lessons, I wouldn't have even felt compelled to do what I'm doing. That's the God's honest truth. I probably would have been quite lazy and just kind of sat on my ass and just watched, I don't know, TV or something. I'm so fired up because I've lived this. I've been on this journey. I am on this journey. I just know enough now that isn't all there is. I know this. And so I'm super passionate about telling other people that that's the case. And I had this little realization that that's why you've lived this. That's why your journey has been what it's been, because without that, I wouldn't have the understanding. Like, I wouldn't have been able to help an anxiety sufferer in the same way that I now can, having had panic attacks myself. You can empathize. You can go, oh yeah, I'm sure that sucks. When you've had a panic attack and you know that you can't breathe and you think you're going to die, then you really understand it. And and the fact that then I can say to somebody, you're still okay. Even in a panic attack, you're going to be okay, but you've got to get back to that. And that's basically it. And that's how you unravel all of this, overwhelm and stress and anxiety. And you just remind yourself you're okay. A really good mantra is, I'm safe, I'm loved, and all is well.
Yeah.
I've used it in, very traumatic times. I've used it in the queue for roller coasters because I hate them. I'm like tapping on my energy points going, I'm safe, I'm loved, and all is well. Like, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die. So yeah.
So let me ask you then, and sadly we have to wrap up, but in regards to this topic, you've given us lots of practical tips on journaling and all these really great things that we can all do. Are there any good apps or tools that you use in your everyday life that help you simplify when it comes to self-sabotage and all of this?
I would say there are apps. I personally, I don't get on with them. I don't get on with anything that you're meant to stick to. But I know there's an app actually I downloaded recently called Calm, which, and I think it's free. You just get it on your phone. And I think it just gives you even like 15 seconds of just looking at, a babbling brook or some sea or something. It's just a little 15-second, like, oh, let's just take a moment and chill. Yeah. So there's apps like that. There's obviously meditation apps like Headspace.
Yep.
But for me, I think the thing I consistently do, and again, I do this because I want to. I don't do this because I've been told or because I'm following anything or because I feel like I should. Audio programs work really well for me because I can put them on when I'm in the shower. I can put them on even when I'm watching the kids. They can just be rolling in the background. Never underestimate the power of your subconscious mind. It's going in, even if your conscious mind is going, oh, is that poo on the wall or Nutella? I can't tell. So, it's really powerful. And I find that I always feel better when I've listened to something on audio, and it's usually real life accounts of people who have experienced something, lived through it, and now their life is awesome. I love anything like that. So podcasts are a good source for that.
Yeah, and you've got a couple of audio series that we'll put the links down in the show notes for everybody that you've got available on your website. How to Thrive in Spite of Anxiety is one, and then another one, the Self-Belief Sessions, and that one's a 5-part audio program. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so the self-belief sessions I wanted to create something that was very easily consumed, so that wasn't going to take hours and hours, because that straight away just gives you an excuse not to do it. Because it's like, oh, people think when they're selling things that, oh, you get 30 hours of training. Awesome. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it.
It's too long.
So this is a 5-part audio series. Each of the audios is about 10 to 12 minutes long, which is hard to believe, I know, given how much I talk, but editing is a wonderful thing. And it's one of these things. So there's a workbook you can get to go with it. So if you want to sit down and actually work the sessions as if you were in some kind of coaching scenario, you can. There are a lot of the exercises I've talked about today, a lot of the kind of mindset and journaling prompts are all in there. So you can do that work, but I think it's also really transformational just to put it on and listen. So in under an hour, you can just get a little dose of how to tap into your self-belief. I don't believe self-belief is something that you need to learn to do or that you need to find necessarily. It's in all of us. It's in you. And again, it's a limiting belief, but you hear people say, oh, I have no self-belief. Okay, well, maybe in that context you don't. But, you know, the first thing I do in the sessions actually is I say, find the areas of your life where you do have self-belief. And, you know, again, it's going to be like, oh, but that doesn't matter. No, there are no rules. Like, I make the most amazing cheese salad sandwich. When I'm making a cheese salad sandwich, my self-belief is right up there because I know that it rocks and I know it's good. I also do the very best turtle coming out of hibernation impression. I defy anyone to better it. So in that situation, and you know, and it's a silly thing. Like, is that going to change the world? Well, maybe it will. What if it could? But you know, the thing is, it's not true to say you don't have self-belief. It's not true to say you don't have confidence. It's not true to say anything sweeping like that, because it all depends on the circumstances and the environment you're in. So there's a lot of little things like that, which, you know, if you want to sit and do the exercises, you can really do that. But otherwise, it's probably just very thought-provoking. It's just enough to make someone go, okay, I might just think about that for a while. So, yeah.
And sometimes that little nudge or, you know, catalyst can spin you off into a whole new way of thinking. So there are a couple of questions that we like to ask all of our guests, and we'll, as we wrap up here. First one is, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I think you are a wealth and fountain of knowledge, and it's exciting to kind of have your brain here with us, and we can listen to you in a real voice. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it, because sometimes I think when people talk about this stuff, it's like, oh, well, I'm magically a perfection and I got it all sorted. But no, actually, it's nice to hear from another woman to woman, another mom out there that, you know, it's like, well, no, actually I'm on the journey and no, it's not perfect. And so thank you for that.
You're welcome. So, thank you.
So let me ask you then, gratitude and simplicity, in my books, they go hand in hand. What are you grateful for right here, right now in this moment?
It's going to sound really funny to say, I am the most grateful for the anxiety that I felt, that I identified, and that kind of, you know, it woke me up. Like, if there is somebody, not even if, because I know there is, I don't know if it's a body or a golden ball of light or a beaver or what, but whatever's watching me, obviously I needed a pretty big wake-up call. So they caused the blackout at the wheel for me to go, okay, this is what I'm doing. I mean, I am a little slow on the uptake, but I couldn't be more grateful for that and for everything I've been through. And, you know, sounds stupid, but almost my biggest struggles are the things I'm the most grateful for, even the things I'm struggling with right now, because I know there's a reason and I know I'm going to figure it out, at least to the point where I move to the next thing, whatever that is. And I'm super grateful that I get to be grateful, because now my fear is gone, because you can throw what you like at me. I know I'm okay. And I know this is my path, and it's super empowering. So, you know, I could list all the normal things. Obviously, I'm grateful for my children. I love my kids. I've got my health. I live in a beautiful house. I live in a beautiful city, blah, 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 tangible. That's all material crap. The thing I'm the most grateful for is my life, my journey in all its hot mess glory. Because it's mine. I wouldn't trade it. I seriously wouldn't trade it. Which is, it's even a funny thing to hear that coming out of my mouth, but I seriously wouldn't. it's mine. It's, you know, it's messy and it's rough and, you know, I can't even
beautiful.
See that. It's completely, that's the beauty of it. Exactly. That's the beauty of it. So, yeah.
So tell us one person that is in your circle of trust, or friends that you know, or colleagues, or even people that you've maybe interviewed on your own podcast, that you know that you think we should interview on the Simplifiers podcast, and why?
Oh, without a doubt, it's got to be Caroline, my hypnotherapist, Caroline Kavanagh, because she's like a little earth angel. And, you know, not just mine either, although I like to think that she is mine. I'm sure I'm her favorite. But that woman is creating amazing amazing shifts in people's lives. She's working not just with adults. She's trying to work with more children. She even there was a client she had the other day, a young boy who'd had these anger issues, and she just unraveled it so quickly. Her methods are amazing. She's got the most dreamy voice. I mean, if you have her on the podcast, like, people are going to be so zen just by listening to her. She's just got one of those voices that you just want to lap up.
I love it. I definitely want to talk to her.
She's an amazing, amazing, beautiful lady. So yeah, I highly recommend her.
Great.
And she lives like I actually know her as well. I've like seen her in real life. It's not even like a, an online montage or anything. She's like a real life person.
Talking about online, where can people find you online? Where do you hang out the most out of any of the social media channels?
Oh, always Facebook. I am always on Facebook.
Great.
So yeah, I have. I'm on my own page. I have a business page. I have my group, and I'm in a lot of other groups as well. I love to kind of chat to people and network. So yeah, I'm all over that.
Fantastic. And now just a reminder to everybody, Lilli also has the Confidence Academy Members Club, which is, the enrollment is open right now. So it's a membership site where she runs it multiple times throughout the year. And it's a 12-week interactive program where you get ongoing support, guest experts, and access to her training vault to really, truly thrive in spite of anxiety. And like we talked about all through this episode, is how to build unshakable confidence and self-belief. So make sure to click on the links down below to check that out and see if if it's a good match for what you're looking for as well. So to wrap up, somebody has been listening to this episode, and at multiple times, either they laughed their butt off or they also raised their hand as like, yeah, you are speaking my language, Lilli. Like, that's me, both in the good and in the bad, right? When we're deep and dark and can't see the way out of our depression, anxiety, spiraling thoughts, whatever it might be. What I want to ask you as my last question is, that person that's sitting there listening to this right now, they might even be sitting in their car. Everything seems to be crumbling around them. What's one thing you could whisper in their ear right now to encourage them to pull them out of it? One thing.
I would just say, what if this isn't all there is? What if it could be different in the next moment? And then how would that look? And just think about it. That's it. First step.
Lilli Badcock, thank you so much. The Confidence Academy Members Club and Lilli Badcock as the Confidence Coach. Thank you so much for being on the Simplifiers podcast.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.